When it comes to NFL content here on YouTube, draft grades are far from a unique concept, right? I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here with this series. We pretty much know what it's going to be. But that being said, typically when you see these videos, you get one of four flavors. You'll get somebody who will just talk about the things they liked about the draft, talk about their favorite draft classes. Maybe they'll throw in their least favorite draft classes, but they won't cover the draft in its entirety. Or you'll have somebody who will go division by division, make 8 videos talking about every single NFL division and what those teams in those different divisions did during the draft. You might have somebody who focuses on one specific team. Maybe they have a channel dedicated to that team and they only talk about the picks that that team made. Or you might have somebody who just throws it all in one video, talks for an hour, hour and a half, and that's how they cover the draft in its entirety. And all of that is fine and dandy. No hate to anyone who takes that approach with this content. But for me personally, I kind of hate myself. And also, I'm really disappointed in the pre-draft content I made. I didn't make nearly as much as I wanted to. So to kind of punish myself and also to try to stand out a little bit, we are going to be talking about all 32 teams in depth in 32 different videos. The original plan was to do that throughout the month of May. Obviously, we're in June now. I missed that deadline. So hopefully we'll be able to get it done by June. And if I can't get it done by the end of June, then we'll make another little intro video and I'll talk about how we're going to do it through May, June, and July. We'll just have to see how our schedule shakes out. So before we jump into it, I would like to give a quick disclaimer because this is the #1 type of comment I get on these videos. I would like to point out I don't think I'm better than any NFL GMs out there. I am an amateur. I am somebody who has a little bit of free time and spends that free time studying the game and scouting college players. I'm not a professional. If you think your favorite GM knows more about football than I do, you're probably right and I won't fault you for that. I'm not trying to say that I know more than any of these GMs I'm critiquing. I'm simply providing analysis based off of my analysis of different draft prospects and also talking about maybe what I would have done differently if I was in their shoes. It's a fun exercise. It's a great way to talk about some guys that I probably wouldn't have talked about otherwise. And if you think this is me trying to say I'm better than X GM, you are absolutely wrong. Without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about the New York Jets and what they did during the 2024 NFL Draft. I'm a pretty big fan of what the Jets did. They make one pick that I'm sitting here scratching my head at, but even then, that was a 5th round pick. I can't get too upset about it. So just kind of diving into it straight up, starting out with their first pick, Olu Fashanu, the offensive tackle out of Penn State. I thought this was an awesome pick. First of all, the value was great. He was my OT3, 3rd offensive tackle off the board. Had him as my 17th ranked player, but given the need for offensive line in New York, I absolutely understand the pickup. Because you take a look at what the Jets have at offensive tackle right now, you have Tyron Smith, who when he's on the field is one of the best left tackles in the game, but that's the problem. He has a lengthy injury history and he's not getting any younger. So you're looking at Olu as not only, you know, a long-term solution to tackle, because obviously Tyron Smith isn't going to be around forever, but also he might see the field a little bit this year at left tackle. I think the only thing with Olu is you're not going to be able to kick him into guard. I don't see him as somebody that has guard flexibility like a Troy Fautanu or Talise Fuanga had, but I don't think that's what the Jets were worried about. I think they're pretty okay with Elijah Vera Tucker, and I guess John Simpson would be their other starting guard right now. I don't know what the plan is there. I think John Simpson's fine, but the point is I think they're pretty comfortable with their guards. I don't think they were worried about that. I think they just wanted to get the best bang for their buck, get somebody that's going to help them long term, think about life after Rodgers, and like I said, Fashanu does have the potential to help them with Rodgers. So I like this pick a lot for them. Fashanu stylistically wasn't one of my favorite players in the class, but that's just me being a little bit picky. You know, I'm old school. I like a big hulking tackle that likes to kill people in the run game, and that's just not Fashanu's game, right? He is much more of a pass blocker, and that's okay. I'm not saying that as like a gripe. God, I hate Olu Fashanu because he doesn't like the run block, but he's an incredible pass blocker. That's what you're getting out of him. You're getting somebody who arguably was the best pure pass blocker in this class. It was a race between him, Fautanu, and Joe Alt. I would say he is second in that race. I just think Joe Alt's a unicorn. But when it comes to Fashanu's pass blocking, he reminds me a lot of like a Jake Matthews, who has been a damn good tackle for the Falcons for a long time now. And while he's never been an incredible run defender, he's not somebody that, you know, you're expecting to displace defensive linemen in the run or run somebody down or flatten a linebacker at the second level, he's still somebody you're very comfortable with starting because he's not going to let your quarterback get hit. And at the end of the day, that's kind of the most important thing right now. So I think this is like the best era for Fashanu to be playing in with his skill set, just because it is so heavily based upon the pass game. And for him to go to the Jets and be like, you know, the long-term left tackle option, I think he's somebody that, you know, when Rodgers retires, which will probably be very soon, he's somebody that's going to keep your next quarterback upright for a decade plus. I think he's a great player, great athlete, good size at 6'6", 312 pounds, good 34-inch arms. Like I said, great technique, great football IQ, picks up on blitzes and stunts really well. He's just a franchise left tackle build. The only reason I had him behind Alt and Latham is because I think they are substantially better run blockers. I think there is easily an argument to be made that Fashanu was the better tackle between him and Latham because he is that much better of a pass blocker. But for what I prefer, I liked Latham a little bit more. And like I said, I think Joe Alt was a unicorn. I think he's a generational tackle. So Fashanu, great pick at 11, especially considering you were able to trade back and get him. You got that, like, what was it, free pick from the Vikings. So that's great. And then you don't pick again until the 3rd round. You trade up and select wide receiver Malachi Corley out of Western Kentucky. And I thought this pick was incredible, first of all, because of the value. I had Malachi Corley as the 54th player on my board. It's my wide receiver 11, had a mid-second round pick. All of the wide receivers I had ranked above him were already gone off the board, so I can't say I would have liked them to take this guy a little bit better or anything like that. You know, just based off the value, this is an incredible pickup. The Jets needed wide receiver help, right? You have Garrett Wilson, who is one of the 10, 15 best wide receivers in football. You add in Mike Williams, who is very inconsistent, but when he's on the field can be a solid 2. You have Alan Lazard, who isn't great, but Rodgers likes him, so you deal with it. You have Xavier Gibson, who's more of a special teamer, but I think has some potential on offense. But you don't have like that true number 3. You don't have like your little slot guy, your Randall Cobb almost, which we all know is Aaron Rodgers' favorite receiver, right? He loves his Randall Cobbs. I think that's what Malachi Corley is going to be for this team. Now, I think he's going to be so much more than what Randall Cobb was. You know, he'll be Randall Cobb when Rodgers is around. I'm sure his role will adjust drastically whenever another quarterback comes in. But for Rodgers, he's just going to be his little slot that he adores and gets the ball out too quickly and, you know, cooks off of screens and will beat you over the top because you forget about him. You know, as a Bears fan, I have flashbacks all the time to the play in which Randall Cobb ended our season and put the Packers in the playoffs and ended up making the Bears miss the playoffs. Can't remember the year because I was very little, but I do remember that very well. And I can see Malachi Corley doing that to teams for sure. I think he has that potential. But not only that, I mean, he's going to be incredible as like a runner. You know, I have him comped to Deebo Samuel. I know that's kind of a cop-out, but he really is the closest thing we've seen to Deebo Samuel, right? He used to play running back, which helps a lot. He has incredible contact balance for someone his size. He has great field vision, very elusive. He has good power because he's a little bit stockier. You know, he's 215 pounds. He's really good at with that like 0 to 60 acceleration. When you put the ball in his hands, it's like watching a bullet train run, which is really cool. I'm a big fan of Corley. He has great leg drive, which allows him to, you know, kind of churn through arm tackles, pretty hard to bring down. He's forced 55 missed tackles over the last 2 seasons in college, which is awesome. He has the strength and focus to kind of like reel in contested catches over the middle on top of being like this gadgety slot designed touches type player. He's able to grab the ball in stride and turn upfield without losing speed or momentum. There's really good like glimpses on contested catches. Granted, he had a low amount of opportunities, at Western Kentucky, and I don't think he's going to get a ton at the NFL level. But if you find yourself in a position where maybe you need to rely on Corley in a 50-50 situation, he's shown he can do that a little bit. He's a very nuanced route runner, very good spatial IQ. He's incredibly versatile. Like I said, he can play wide receiver, halfback. You can line him up in all sorts of ways. And with the run game, which I expect the Jets to lean into this year, you know, just to kind of talk about that real quick, with the way their offense is built, right? You have these 2 big hulking tackles who are really good at run blocking. You have Nick Bowden at fullback. You have Jeremy Ruckert, who might end up replacing Bowden if they don't want to keep him around, but he's a good blocking tight end. You have Breece Hall and then Braylon Allen, who we'll talk about in a moment. Like, you're setting up to be a run-heavy team, which would make a lot of sense because Aaron Rodgers does his best work off of play action. And considering Aaron Rodgers is 40 and coming off a major injury, you probably don't want to rely on him more than you have to. So I do think the Jets will be a very run-heavy team, and I think Corley will get involved in that both as a ball carrier and as a blocker. Like, he is aggressive on the outside, he's tenacious, he likes to hit people, which is great. Now, on the flip side of things, because he is a little bit smaller, he has a smaller catch radius because his frame's pretty stout, his arms are pretty short, and he's, you know, someone you just kind of don't project too great as a deep threat or anything like that. Like 75% of his yards came after the catch in college, which is a little concerning. But I don't think that's necessarily going to be his role. I think there's going to be plays where he will leak downfield and make plays downfield, but he's not Tyreek Hill. He's not Jalen Waddle. He's not going to be a true deep threat. He is a slot. He's a gadget guy that is going to make some big plays, and I think he's going to be awesome in this offense. So based off the value, based off of the fit, I think this is an incredible pick. Another A+, and then the A+ is just keep on rolling with Braylon Allen, the running back out of Wisconsin. He was my RB1. I had an early to a mid-second round grade on him. 44th ranked player on my big board. You get him in the 4th round at pick 134. Huge fan of that. First of all, fits perfectly with Breece Hall. You've got your Thunder and Lightning duo, which I love so much because of the Breece Lightning nickname for Breece Hall. I'm a theater kid, so any sort of nickname that relates to theater, I'm going to be a big fan of. But talking about Braylon Allen, you've got your power back. He reminds me a lot of like a Brandon Jacobs, you know, 6'1", 235 pounds. Not the fastest guy in the world, but you're not going to tackle him. It is near impossible to bring this guy down. He has a massive frame. He's not afraid to use it. There's no hesitance to his game. There's no pussyfooting around it. Like, he likes to hit people. He has good build-up speed, and that's going to allow him to make big plays downfield. Now, that was kind of teetering on borderline at Wisconsin, getting to the NFL where everyone's faster. We'll have to see how that works out. But I don't think you're drafting Braylon Allen in this offense with the expectation that he's a home run hitter, right? You're drafting Braylon Allen to pick up tough yards, to be, like I said, the Thunder, to Breece's Lightning, to be, you know, just your between the tackles back, right? So if he's not a home run hitter, I think he'll be okay with that. Great at fighting through contact, wants to bury defenders at all costs when he has the ball in his hands. He has a nasty stiff arm, really light feet, which is awesome to see from a bigger back, incredible vision. He's quick to change lanes when he has to. He's an urgent runner on third downs and short yardage situations, so he's always going to do his best to get upfield quickly, and he's going to do his best to fall forward and pick up extra yards. He's a capable pass catcher, not somebody that you're going to mistake for like a Christian McCaffrey, but, you know, you can put him on a swing route, an out route, put him in the flat, whatever. He'll make a play and turn upfield. He was incredibly productive in college. You know, 3,482 yards with 35 touchdowns in 3 seasons, 1,258 yards, 1,200 yards, of which came in his true freshman year. He's also a really good pass blocker. He's also 20 years old, youngest player in the NFL, which certainly doesn't hurt. You know, not a lot of tread on the tires. Now, you do have to worry about ankle tackles with him because he has a very top-heavy frame, but that's something you can kind of work out of him. Just tell him to hit the gym, right? Tell him not to skip leg day while he's in New York, and I think you'll be able to figure that out. Fumbles are also a bit of an issue. He had 4 in 2023, 9 on his career. When you get to the NFL, that kind of stuff is one of those things where it's just coaching. It's just mentality. You just got to tell, you know, teach him how to hold on to the ball a little bit better and hope that that works. And I think it will. I'm a big fan of Braylon Allen. I have a ton of faith in him. So getting him here in the 4th round is fantastic. One of the best picks of the draft, in my opinion. And then we get to the 5th round, where they had 3 picks within 5 picks of each other. The first of which is Jordan Travis, the quarterback out of Florida State. And I love this pick, not only for the Jets, but for Jordan Travis as well. So for the Jets, first of all, fantastic value. I had a late 3rd to an early 4th round grade on Travis. He was my QB8. You get him here in the 5th round. I think that's awesome value. I think he's a really fun backup type. Reminds me a lot of Josh Dobbs as somebody who I think at the next level is going to come in and just kind of be a journeyman, kind of bounce around the league as somebody who's super smart, is able to learn playbooks quickly, and you can throw him out there and expect him to make some plays. He's going to be able to play well within structure, and if things get wiry, you can expect him to make a play or 2 on his own. But I love him going to the Jets specifically, because not only does he get to learn from Aaron Rodgers, that's the big exciting part, but he gets to learn from a player that's very similar to Joshua Dobbs and Tyrod Taylor, who has done a lot of the same thing. As a journeyman backup who can execute offenses and learn playbooks quickly, while also being able to take things into his own hands if he has to. Right, you've got Travis getting to learn from the two of them. I think that's fantastic for him. Looking at what Travis does well, he has a quick, snappy release. He has enough arm strength to be able to throw with some velocity. Not somebody that's going to be able to hit the deep ball super effectively. He's pretty consistent over the middle of the field. I like his mechanics. He's a pretty sound decision maker. He can make throws off platform, keeps his eyes downfield when the play breaks down. It's a pretty good field extender, and he's a legitimate rushing threat. Now, his arm isn't great. He's going to overcompensate for that arm, which is going to cause issues when he's trying to throw the ball downfield. His release and his accuracy can be a little inconsistent at times, and his ability to process the field as well as his anticipation just aren't where they need to be. On top of that, I don't love his pocket poise. He's coming off a pretty big injury, and he's going to be 24 at the start of his rookie year. So I don't think he's ever going to have the ceiling of like an actual starter in the league, but as one of these journeyman backups, I think he can absolutely, develop into that. So I think the Jets will be able to hit Travis for the duration of his rookie contract as their QB2, especially once Tyrod Taylor's gone. And then, he'll go somewhere else and just kind of bounce around and do the same thing over and over again. Maybe there's a point where the Jets want to try him as a starter. I don't think that's in the cards personally, but, I've been wrong before. We'll have to see. And then the next pick, 2 picks later, they take running back Isaiah Davis out of South Dakota State. And I really don't like this pick. I don't see the vision. First of all, you just took Braylon Allen a round earlier. You have Breece Hall. And you have Izzy Abanikanda on the roster. Why do we feel the need to take another running back when you already have limited picks? And not only did they take another running back, they take a running back I personally wasn't a huge fan of. Like, I don't know. He's just kind of like another player that I think is going to be a career backup. He's got good vision, but he's not the most athletic guy in the world, and he's not a great pass blocker. I don't know. It's tough for me to like Davis. It's tough for me to see where you bring him in, because Breece is clearly your alpha in this room. You've got Braylon Allen as your goal line back. You've got Izzy Abanikanda is like your change of pace, speedy guy. Where does Davis fit in? I don't know. And maybe the Jets really just don't like Abanikanda, which I would be shocked by. I wasn't a huge Abanikanda fan, but even I think he's better than Isaiah Davis. And even I think he is worth, being an RB3. And there's also plenty of running backs you can pull out of free agency. You don't need to draft 2 running backs in what was a pretty underwhelming running back class, especially with the current running back market where, these guys are kind of a dime a dozen nowadays. Like, the Allen pick was great because of the value, and also he fills like a very clear role for your team. Davis, I don't see it. Now, if you're a Jets fan and you've heard them rave about Isaiah Davis saying that he's going to fit a very specific role, please let me know in the comments down below. I would love to be wrong. I don't want this guy to suck. I don't want this to be a blemish on an otherwise almost perfect draft class. So, if I'm missing something with Davis, then by all means, please let me know. But I just don't see it. And then their final 5th round pick at 176, they take Qwan'tez Stiggers, the cornerback out of the Canadian Football League. And I'm happy about this pick. This makes me really happy. This isn't an A+ for me because I didn't watch him before the draft. I didn't have him graded, so I can't say this was like a super steal or anything like that. But the Jets needed a corner. Taking a corner in the late 5th round is certainly good process when you need the position. And also, I'm rooting like hell for this guy. Stiggers, he lost his dad, dropped out of college, played his way into draft relevance with 7-on-7 indoor football, joined the CFL, became a breakout player there. He's got good size, he's got good speed, he's got the instincts, he's got the ball skills, he's fluid. He's just kind of inexperienced. He's a project corner with a hell of a story, a chip on his shoulder, a badass name, and, just an aura to him, for lack of a better word, that I'm sure Jets fans will be able to get behind. Like, this is the type of thing you want to take in the 5th round. You want to take this type of swing. Now, again, I would love to call this an A+. I just can't because I'm not familiar enough with Stiggers' game, right? I'm just not. So I don't want to, come out here and say this was a steal and then, whatever happened. But based off the process and my own selfish wanting to root for this guy because of his story, I think it's a really good pick. Like I said, you know, it's an A here. You can see that. I like the pick. I'm excited to see his development. The Jets needed the corner help after losing Bryce Hall. You know, you've got DJ Reed, Sauce Gardner, Michael Carter as your big three right now. That's a hell of a big three to have, but in this league, you need at least 4, maybe 5, maybe 6 corners on your roster that you can be ready to suit up on game day. So adding more corner help, certainly can't complain about that. And then with the final pick in the draft, Mr. Irrelevant, they take Jalen Key, the safety out of Alabama. I'm not familiar with his game. I didn't watch him. I don't have anything to say about him. I would love to come back to this video and be like, man, I really should have looked into him more because I could have had a hell of a take and he's a superstar. You know, I hope he has the Purdy arc, but unfortunately, I'm just not familiar enough with his game. I gave him an NA because I'm not going to grade a player that I know absolutely nothing about. Stiggers, you know, at least I know kind of what he brings to the table. You know, he's just super athletic. He just needs to learn the position a little bit better. He needs to get better at like the processing and the football IQ side of things. So I can feel comfortable giving him some sort of grade. With Key, I know nothing, so I can't give him any sort of grade. But as a whole, the Jets did really well. I very clearly love what they did. Initially, I was going to give them an A, but the more I thought about it, the more I came to the conclusion I'm knocking them too much for reaching on a 5th round pick. Or making a 5th round pick I disagree with. I do think it was a little bit of the reach. I wouldn't have taken Davis before the 6th and maybe the 7th round. But there's one pick I disagree with. It's on day 3, and it came in the middle of a pretty solid 3-pick run. So I'm not going to knock them too much for that. I'm going to give them an A+. I think they absolutely hit their first 4 picks out of the park. Got 2 guys that are going to contribute day 1. 1 guy that's going to be a franchise cornerstone at some point in his career. Got good value on a quarterback, which is always a great thing. They had a fun developmental corner with a really good story. I just don't understand the Davis pick. Again, if I'm missing something, please let me know in the comments, because this is the only blemish on what I think is an otherwise fantastic draft. So shout out to the Jets. They are making waves for sure, and with the way Buffalo's looking right now, this division's wide open. You know, I really hope this draft class helps them get over the hump just so they can win a ring with Rodgers, just so we can all look at how stupid Green Bay was for letting him go for like 5 minutes, and then we remember Jordan Love's there, and Jordan Love's also really good. But, you know, I don't love Aaron Rodgers, but the city of New York deserves something, and I think the Jets are a hell of a lot closer to getting that something than the New York Giants are. So hopefully this class will do something for them, and I'm really excited to watch Corley and Allen this year. They're 2 of my favorite players in the class, and seeing them on the same team is going to be a hell of a lot of fun.
Had a chance on the throwback. This was an ill-advised throw. What an unbelievable catch by Cole Kmet. And he cups it too. No movement when he hits the ground, tucked up against his shoulder. Wow.
Using that